Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 1 of EDUC 5433. I hope you're in the right class. The name of the class is Research-Based Practices of Literacy Instruction. So welcome to the class. I just noticed that I have the same outfit on that I had when I made my other video, my introductory video. I just want, I do have other clothes. I guess it was just a good rotation. So what I'm going to do every week is I will record a video. And in this video, I'm going to explain the assignments for this particular week. And then I'm going to try to give you a little bit of content just to supplement what we're doing. And so that's what we're going to be doing. So we're at week 1. So as a review, for some of you, this you know this, so you'll be like, I know how to do this. Others, I just want to show you. So I'm going to start here at my SEU1 login. Going to go to MyFire. And from MyFire, I'm going to find my class. You guys will probably not have as many classes as I have. I'm going to log into that. And I'm just realizing that you guys are not seeing this. So let me try again. And here. I think this will be better. Okay. Okay, so here we go. Here's our class. I'm going to go under Content and Assessment. And we are in Module 1. So just our aim, going to hit that on. This tells us what is it that we're going to be learning in this particular module. In this module, we're going to contrast major theories of literacy and language. And the big part of this module is what is the current status of literacy right now and where we are in 2025 and where have we come from. We want to talk about the role of language in students' cultures, explain basic principles of teaching, reading, and discuss the qualities of highly effective teachers. So those are our objectives. Under the Learn section, this is always going to tell what you're going to read. And so this week, we are reading from Creating Literacy Instruction for All Students, Chapter 1. Now, I do have the 11th edition. If you have the 10th edition, it's going to be a little different. And the reason I wanted you to get the 11th edition is because this 11th edition, they added a lot of information about the science of reading. So if you don't have an 11th edition, you may want to reach out to me so I can kind of explain the differences. I also have some videos that it's really going to help if you watch this. I have a video on Scarborough's reading rope and the science of reading. And then John Hattie, if you do not know John Hattie's work, he has about visible learning practices, and your book talks about highly effective teaching practices. I would highly recommend looking at John Hattie's work on visible learning. He has great resources. So this is an easy week because this week you only have one discussion post. So I'm kind of easing into my high expectations of assignments. But so this week you have one assignment, and that is your discussion. And so it says, in class, we will learn research-based literacy practices. And it says you should also know the current state of literacy and the implications so you can construct effective programs that promote literacy. So after reading chapter 1, explain the status of literacy. What major literacy initiatives have been initiated to try to help prove literacy effectiveness? And are those initiatives effective in your opinion? I do have a rubric, and so I would highly suggest that you look at the rubric, and I'm just going to show it to you now so you'll see it. So we have an initial post here. You're going to get 5 points for your initial post. Was it 200 words? Or you always have the option of doing a video or 2 to 3 minutes. Did it contribute to the discussion? Did you post profoundly answer all parts of the question, not just one part? Did your entry correctly utilize a variety of evidence from what you're reading? I don't want this to be where you put the answer in from AI. I want you to, not even supposed to do that. I want you to tell me evidence from the text to support your reading. And then you shouldn't have a bunch of errors in grammar, punctuation. Then you need a secondary response. Now, I'm only having you do one post, so I need to change that. It's not secondary post. You only have to do one, or at least 100 words, or 1 minute. It contributes to the discussion, reflects deep thinking, and responses correctly utilized a variety of evidence from the text. Okay, so that is that. So that's what you need to do for week 1 is you just have one discussion post. Now, there are a couple things that I would like to show you and talk about. And so I'm going to share my screen again. And these are just a few things that are in your textbook that I wanted to highlight for you. Okay, so the first thing, and I'm going to have to, sorry about this, try again. Okay, I'm going to have to just show you in this mode. Hopefully that'll work. In your in chapter 1, it begins talking about 3 approaches to teaching literacy. You have your bottom-up model, your top-down model, and then you have the interactive model. Your bottom-down model really talks about that reading is a process that it starts at the very bottom where you're teaching kids about letter sound correspondence or phoneme grapheme, and that reading instruction has the smallest unit, goes to letters, then it goes to blends, it goes to syllables, and then words, and builds up to phrases. So it's a lot, that bottom up is very direct instruction. Then we have the top-down model. A top-down model is reading as a process of constructing meaning, comprehension of units of meaning from larger words or phrases. And this is really where the whole language movement came down, and even a lot with balanced literacy. That's why this is a really good, in your text, really read carefully pages 3 and 4, because it talks a lot about these different views. And one of the reasons we shifted to the science of reading with a more bottom-up approach is that we weren't doing enough direct instruction starting with that smallest unit. And what we know for the science of reading, looking at the brain, is that we need that. And so it talks a little bit about balanced literacy, the pros and cons of balanced literacy. And then what we used to do a lot of is what we call the 3 cueing systems. And one of the problems we have with the top down is that it didn't place decoding first. And so what we know with the science of reading is decoding always needs to be first, and then comprehension will support the decoding. It talks about the interactionist view, which that is just a way that says, yes, some reading skills need to be direct and systematic, like phonics, for example, but then other types of reading might be a top-down approach. And it goes on to explain that the approach taken in this text, this author, it says the text draws heavily on the science of reading, which realizes that there's affective factors like engagement and positive relationships with students. And that combines with this bottom-up approach. So they believe that it's almost like it's both approaches that you need. So readers use decoding, but they use awareness of spelling, but they also have to know the meaning of words and connect that to the context in which they're in. So that's going to be an important part to really read. It goes over, if you are not familiar with Scarborough's reading rope, I would definitely look at Scarborough's reading rope, and I'm going to show you that. Having some problems with showing it. Okay. Try again. So most of you are probably aware of Scarborough's reading rope, but if you are not, I want you to make sure that you look at Scarborough's reading rope. Here's just a quick reminder that you have language comprehension. That's going to include your background knowledge, vocabulary, language structure, verbal reasoning, and literacy knowledge. And then you have word recognition, which I think almost everyone believes that word recognition needs to be a bottom-up approach with phonological awareness, decoding, and even teaching of sight words. But to be a good reader, you have to have both. You have to have word recognition and comprehension, both. And so that's going to be a pretty interesting something to look at. I would like all of you to also look at one thing that your book talks a lot about is the NAEP scores. If you are not familiar with NAEP scores, NAEP is the nation's report card. So let me show that to you. So again, this chapter is about where are we in the United States? What is the current state of reading? And so the NAEP is the only standardized test that cuts across everybody. It takes it. You take it in fourth grade, ninth grade, I believe. Yeah, ninth grade and 12th grade. So you take it 3 times. And so this first chart, you can really get into a lot of data if you're a big data person. And so I'm going to look at 4th grade reading, and this has overall. Now I can see that the agency that I came from, DODEA, was #1 in the nation. And so they had a scale score of 234. Overall, we can see here that the national public average is 214. DODEA had a score of 234. That's a 20-point difference. I can see here that 79% of students are at basic level. 48% are at proficient level. So that's only 48. So even the top school, only 48 is at proficient. So we can see all the states and where they're at. So here we have Florida. So Florida's 218. So actually did pretty well considering. And we can see, but even with that, only 33% of kids are proficient. And so we can go all the way down, and it will give you every state. So you can look up your state and see where you're at. You can really get into this specific data. If you want to go into your specific state, it can tell you, it assesses reading and math, but you can look at your specific state. And one thing that's really interesting is, and I'm going to, I wanted to do reading. This has math. Here's reading. Oh, and this has all the different other years, so you can look at trend data. But this is something you may want to look at, and you can look at this. That's, oh, here's reading. Okay. And here we have 4th grade, we have 8th grade. But it gives you trend data over time. So this is something that you may want to spend some time looking at because it's going to give you an idea of where you're at and where your state is. The last thing the book talks about is, I mean, there's other things, but one important thing it talks about is highly effective teachers. So what makes a highly effective teacher? And it goes into some of these things. Number 1, highly effective teachers are caring and they have high expectations. And that's something that I want you to pay close attention to as you read. Easy is not motivating. What data shows is students excel when they're in a classroom that has high expectations, that expects them to do well and has high expectations for them. There should be extensive instruction, lots of direct instruction, okay? And the teacher is a master at instructional strategies. There needs to be scaffolding. So I like to use the analogy of a swimming pool. And the only sport that I'm pretty good at is swimming. So I used to dive off. I could go off the high dive. That was my entry point. But for some students, entry point is over here at the very shallow end. So we're all going to swim. But for some people, the entry point is going to have to start at a different place than some other people. That's scaffolding. Classroom management is a must. You could be great at reading instruction, but if you don't have classroom management, you can't teach. You have to have high quality materials. I have seen often that teachers have high quality materials, but you need to know how to use your high quality materials. It's not that you have a ton of materials, you just have to have the right materials to teach reading. You want to have materials that match the task and the students' competency levels. So there needs to be materials that are differentiated in your classroom. And lastly, and this is one of the most important things, you want to have collective teacher efficacy. And that means high efficacy means that you believe that you can make a difference, that you have this belief that what I do in the classroom will positively impact a student. That's important, but what's more important is collective teacher efficacy. When you have a group of teachers that collectively believe that they have the standards to positively impact student achievement. That's what research shows is really important. So you need to be, it's great to have a shining star, but what really works is when you have a bunch of shining stars together that are working together as a team. So chapter 1 is an introduction, and it really teaches us about where are we at right now in education. So that's a little bit about week 1. Don't forget that your initial discussion post is always due on Saturday. And it's very important that you get these in on time because you're going to find I'm a pretty quick grader. Sunday, I will have everything graded. And if it's not there, you're going to get a 0. Okay. Then on your final response to a colleague, your initial response is due on Saturday. The response to another person is due on Tuesday because Wednesday starts a new week. And so I will start grading on Wednesday to make sure that you have everything completed. So I'll give you a lot of feedback. I think that I'm pretty extensive in my feedback because I want you to learn and grow. I'm hoping that if you will improve as the semester goes along. If there's anything you need, please reach out to me, but I hope you have a wonderful week 1 in this new class. Thank you.